everybody, and thanks for everybody showing up for our August meeting. I know not too many committees have a meeting in August, but we work year-round. So this is the regular Housing Committee meeting of August 7th, 2024. I am Kathy Hunter, and I will be chairing tonight's meeting. And tonight we are joined by Louis Schaefer, Mary Dean, Warner Marshall, and our newest member, Chris Dickerson. So, welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
I think before we get rolling into the through the agenda, we do ask like our new members just to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us why you're interested in being part of the Housing Committee.
Well, I lived in town my entire life. I live in the flats, and we don't usually get a lot of representation on boards and commissions. So I was asked if I had any interest in going on the Housing Committee, and I said yes.
All
You're
right.
on the 2030 committee, aren't you?
I am on the 2030
Yeah,
committee.
that's relevant.
Yeah.
That's a good connection for us.
It's-
We're glad to
yeah.
have that
Yep.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Okay. Is the 2030 committee, is that still ongoing, or
Yes.
is that, okay? You
Nope,
still
it's
meeting?
still ongoing. We're working on, we're working right now on a plan to change the streetscape and enhance the area in the flats to make it easier for businesses to prosper. The traffic down there is challenging. The sidewalks are very limited. So we've applied for some state and federal grants
Yeah.
to enhance the whole area, add sidewalks almost everywhere in the flats to encourage people to park and walk and shop, and we also plan to slow the traffic down as well to make it safer. It's pretty dangerous on Amity Road and Litchfield Turnpike. So
Yeah, yeah.
some of the things we've been working on for a couple of years.
Cool, okay. Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, I like that intersectionality of doing the, because we had Susan Jacobs here last year talking about it. So
Yes.
I know there was some discussion and doing some zoning changes for 2030, and that's certainly, we need to coordinate those efforts, because we were also talking about zoning changes for the business district, which is, part of the 2030, so we got to make sure that we are singing off the
Yeah,
same
we're
page.
we're actually not looking at. We're not going to make any zone changes because we don't have any power to do that. Town plan and zoning will do that. But
Oh, yeah, I mean,
we're not
make
making
recommendations.
recommendations on zone changes per se. It's more about, at this point, trying to work on infrastructure to make it easier for people to travel, walk, and shop. That's really the focus. It's business driven.
Yeah.
So at this point, we don't have any plans to make recommendations on zone changes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
We have talked about that. but
Yeah,
at
that was
this
in-
point,
that was
we
in
haven't.
Susan's,
Yeah, so that might have been something that we
Yeah,
had talked about.
it was in the
a year ago.
presentation of doing some
Yeah.
phone, actually form code the
Yeah.
consultant was talking about. Anyway, we could go down another rabbit hole,
Yep,
but we
that's
won't do
another
that.
thing.
All right, so the first item on our agenda is the minutes of July 3rd, 2024. Have folks been able to look at those minutes? I know, Chris, you weren't here, but I don't know if people had a chance to look at that. Hey, let's see. Hey, Donovan.
Oh, I just noticed that.
This is for early voting. That's why
Yeah.
that's still there. So you can probably go over
Do you
here
want
to one of the
sit here?
microphones.
or-
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna try to stay away from any machines. We don't want to be tampering with any early voting.
Did you have
Go for
everything?
it, Donovan.
And we're joined by Donovan Walker. I just.
Hi, Donovan. I'm Chris.
Hey Chris, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Nice to
How are
meet
you? Nice to meet you as well.
All right, so we're just on the first, Chris just introduced himself. And so we're on the first agenda item.
To the minutes.
Yeah.
One question. I
Sure.
don't care which way you go, but I love consistency. Everybody knows that. Sometimes in the minutes it says who's attending and who is excused or wasn't there. This one doesn't say it. I don't care which way we go, but I'm
Oh.
just wondering, I love consistency.
Oh, you're right.
You're right, okay.
I
Well, let's-
wasn't here.
Why don't, we usually have discussion after we approve the minutes.
Okay.
If we're gonna be,
You mean after we move to approve the minutes?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's approve the.
Well, you can approve them asking for that amendment, that alteration
I
before
don't care.
that.
We can go forward this way from now
You-
on.
you
We
know
can
I-
do the other way.
all right, let's approve the minutes first.
I guess I missed the last meeting too, it seemed like.
Oh, a
I
motion.
never know how to do that.
All right, I will make a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we have discussion. All right, so we did now, we could do that going, just trying to be more consistent going forward. I am trying to think of who wasn't. Yeah, Warner, you weren't here last time. But yeah, I think, going forward, we usually have attending. And if you give a reason why you can't make it, then you're excused. And if you just blow it off, then you're absent. I think that's how
Right,
it goes.
and I gave a reason why I
I was
couldn't
in
actually. I know, Miles wasn't here, but I don't know if he did or not, and I don't know about Warner.
Yeah, Miles was in Morocco, so I'll
That he
give
did-
him.
Yeah, I did know that. He did tell us that. He did tell us that too.
I don't know where he is tonight. This was supposed to be, I think, his last meeting before he goes to NYU, but that's okay. We wish him well. So we will do that. So going forward, we'll make sure we do that.
So it should be either a person is excused or we just don't say anything.
No, I think it's excused because you let the person know, and then absent, because if you
Oh,
continue,
absent,
if you
okay.
continually, like, just not show up without a
Okay.
reason, then that's probably a reason to ask you to maybe join another committee, I guess.
Give money. I never know quite what to do. You'll see that I noted that the point in the meeting at which Donovan was able to join us, because of, if we'd had a vote before that time, I thought maybe you should indicate who was part of the vote. Is that something that you think is important? I haven't read Robert's rules with a fine-tooth comb, but it sort of makes sense to me, so.
Yeah, I
did
think
that.
you should indicate when somebody comes in, and whether or not it was
Whether
before or
the
after,
time.
then you could probably see.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, like, for planning and zoning, they say who voted because you have alternates there who may not vote if they're not, taking the place of a permanent commissioner. So they actually put the names of the people voting, but we don't have that issue here.
Well, our issues are not that
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
So far, yeah.
So I don't see anybody for public comment. I don't know, Anna, you're just waiting out, or
Just,
she's not doing, okay,
no,
doing
What does it
public
say?
comment, okay.
no.
Just wanted to make sure. Okay, so seeing
OCA thing?
none, I'm gonna move on.
Isn't it OCA?
Search,
That's what it said.
What's that?
He had a question about
I was reading the OCA,
lawsuit. The
C.
3C.
in the,
Oh, did you wanna, go back to that discussion?
sure, yeah.
Yeah, so there was a recommendation, you weren't here, you weren't part of that conversation?
He wasn't here
What
yet.
happened?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so, because, the recommendation is for all, like committees and commissioner members is to create a separate email for town business, so whatever that looks like. I don't know if there's a townofwoodbridge.com, or I don't know, whatever you could use to have a separate email from your personal email, because of the fact that this is all, FOIable, and it just so happens, and Jim could probably explain this one better.
Jim explained it. Yeah.
What did you wrong there?
We're just talking about the
You wanna go-
affordability of.
This is for early voting.
Oh, let's see.
You can, oh yeah, that's,
Yeah, FOIAbility of emails. And so Donovan was just asking about that conversation, that we were asked to create separate emails, which I have not done yet. But,
weren't we gonna get instructions about that?
yeah, I mean,
We haven't heard anything.
we
so-
have not heard anything, and I don't think it's 100% sure that that's going to happen.
Do we create them, or does the town create them for
The
us?
emails,
Yes.
no, you would create your own email.
But
So-
would we use a town server, or would we use
No,
our
no, you
own
would just use
Gmail
like
or
a Gmail,
yeah, or anything
like
we want?
whatever works, I don't know, if there's a town in
What
Woodbridge.
do you mean by a separate email?
You create a different email from your, you could, like, you could do a Gmail, like anybody could do a Gmail email, so you could.
Oh, so you don't want me to use my Opt Online account?
It's totally up to you, if you don't, just to know that you could be, foiable,
Subpoena.
and someone could look at your personal email and look at everything you have on your computer.
It
Well,
would
the trouble is
probably
we've
be
already-
better to have a dedicated one that you use only for that purpose, because then people need to look at that stuff and they don't look at anything else.
But they're gonna have to go back because I haven't created a separate email for everything that's gone out in
Well,
the past.
we're talking about going forward.
Yeah, go for it.
And also, the emails that I get from Kathy telling me there are meetings, that comes to my personal account. So we're gonna have to all switch that. I mean, I hope the town, and I don't know what's going on with the town, but I hope they're objecting to this because this has a chilling effect for people who wanna serve the government. We're volunteers here, and they're making it, I use 4 different computers in my house. So I'm gonna have to, do 70 search terms in 4 different computers.
Yeah.
Lou, I can tell you for a fact that the town council is aware of that, not the town council, but the people who are representing the
Right,
town are
exactly,
aware of that.
yes.
The judge who was handling the discovery conference, Rohrbach, is very well aware of that, in fact, brought that up. Okay, so it's not like people aren't thinking about it.
Right, but this is more than the usual objections, requests being overbroad and burdensome. Well, burdensome certainly applies here, but it does have an effect on people, whether you're willing to be here, and it has an effect on me. I can't move around to my, to do the 70 search terms on 4 computers, on 2 different email accounts, this is,
Well, I think it's the one, I think it's the computer you use for, unless you're using all your computers for business. It's just the computer that you're using, your one email, and I'm just sending you,
well, I use different computers in my house.
right, but for a housing committee business, I'm just using one email of yours, so it would just be that.
Right, that's fine, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
the emails that I use on my phone, I don't copy them myself, so it doesn't wind up
Yeah, yeah.
on my computer itself, and these disappear. My system's always been set up on my phone, it disappears after 2 weeks. So I don't wanna be burdened by all these emails on my phone, nothing to do with this case, everything disappears.
Well, I could assure you that the town, the attorneys that are working on this lawsuit are.
Yep, I know they're good attorneys, I'm not questioning that.
Yeah, I mean,
But I hope they
they are
realize-
pushing,
yeah.
they are pushing back very hard on the idea of doing the searches.
I know they're good attorneys, but they don't know what's going through our heads, and, they don't know.
Yeah, no, I
how
think,
we
no,
are.
no,
Lou,
no, they
I-
do,
I-
they do, they do.
Honestly, I can tell you for a fact,
Yeah.
because I heard it firsthand, that they are well aware of it, that issue, the issues you just raised.
That people
Okay?
use different ones,
And the
okay.
judge who is doing the discovery status conference is raised it himself. So
Yep.
it's not like it is.
Okay, good, well, I don't know that
Okay,
until
I-
somebody tells me,
I
yeah.
thought maybe you didn't hear what I said before.
No, I heard what you said before, they're aware of the problems, but I didn't know if they were aware of the specific problems I mentioned here tonight.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is we should or should not make another,
I think, no, everybody should, just as a matter of course, whatever committee, commission you're on, you should have a separate email.
I mean, I guess I don't mind the different email, but to search all our computers,
They're going to run, in the event this does happen, and it's still not certain whether or not it's going to happen, they are gonna provide some, search terms, and I think the number is like 70 search terms that they're going to use, and they would give instructions at how to search, your
So-
computer.
so certain files and.
Yeah, so certain files would pop up, but then you, I guess, create a file, and that would go to the town, the the town attorneys, and then they would look through it to see what's relevant. I don't know if I'm explaining that right.
Well, if you
Um,
have, you have
and then
That's
they
about
would,
right.
they
I
would,
think they're gonna be very surprised, our adversaries, or the town's adversaries, when they look at everything that we've done, and I think they have a very, inaccurate opinion of what we were doing and why we were doing it, but they have to find out. So,
yeah.
so it is.
So for the next meeting or whatever, we should all do this thing and then send you those new addresses?
Yeah, I
For
think that would be
community
good,
clearance
so then I
conversations.
could start sending stuff, because I do send a lot of stuff, as people notice. That probably would be good, so as soon
Okay.
as you get a new email you wanna change out, you know, and I still gotta remember to do that myself, just send it to me and I'll change it out, and going forward, we'll just have, you know, a dedicated email. Okay. The next item on the agenda is my housing share report. I just have a couple quick things. I didn't really have I was actually in Maine until this morning, so I didn't have a lot of time to put, I thought in the 5-hour drive I'd be able to put something together, but that didn't work. But I did wanna, well, actually, in terms of the minutes, if you read the minutes, my job was to do a newsletter, to do a draft of the newsletter to send around. And we were talking about like highlighting accessory dwelling units and the 2-unit units that are now permissible throughout town. And we did do a newsletter. I did send that around. People had some comments, which we incorporated some in the comments, sent that to the town, and they kind of used our newsletter to create this handy dandy facts about ADUs. So they kind of turned it from a newsletter to a fact sheet. So they did take the liberty of doing this. I think it actually looks pretty nice. It's probably, you know, much more readable than the newsletter I had, or we had to send out. But, you know, at this point, this is what they came up with. I didn't see any objections to it. I sent it to a couple folks, and I think people thought it looked fine. And I was trying to get this out because I did have a table at a concert, one of the concerts, and I was hoping to give this out and people would be interested in. Actually, no one really showed up at the table. I think people were too interested in enjoying their summer and listening to the music and not getting caught up in the housing committee business. But anyway, I think this is a really good flyer. I'm trying to figure out like where we could distribute this.
The flyer, I have a comment on the flyer. I hate to sound crotchety, but I know I am.
No.
But I said before, I like consistency, and a comment I've always made is, I hate when we say things like ADUs, and I know it's defined in the first paragraph. This is beautiful. It really is attractive, and it's really good. But I would have said the facts about accessory dwelling units, and then put in parentheses and quotes ADUs. I put it right up front because anybody
Yeah.
looking at this has no clue most people have no clue what an ADU is.
Very good point. And I failed to send this out, you know, ahead of time. I just got jammed up. But that's a good point. And they could change it. I mean, I can have them
Yeah,
change it.
I mean, it's really,
was nice.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, no,
It's
she did a nice,
Yeah.
Allison worked this up and she did a really nice job. And so I did email her today to see how this was gonna go out. I mean, it's gonna go out, via the, next town's, email, e-letter, whatever you call it, newsletter. They are gonna put this on there. And they're also going to put it on the housing committee's website. So,
How often do you think that a newsletter will go out?
So,
what's that?
How often do you think we'll send a newsletter out?
I don't, like once a month, I think it goes out. Yeah, so that probably, goes into my next, my next topic is, you know,
May
we
I
sh-
say that about this before you go to the next topic? Um, when I looked at this, and I agree, of course, it looks lovely, and are all our newsletters gonna follow this same format? Because I think consistency in the appearance of our publications is
Yeah.
really important. But I think this, this could probably work for us. However, I was very concerned about the fact that changes were made in the content that we had written and approved and worked on. And as I mentioned to you before in our correspondence, doing this kind of thing as much as I do, I realize that the reason for those changes could be quite desirable. You know, I mean, if we make errors in editing or something, we need to have those corrections, that's fine. But it should go back to the authors before it's finalized. It was incorrect of them not to do that.
Yeah,
Especially because this was a committee-approved matter. And it does change it somewhat. I'm not objecting to it, but just be aware that when you reformat something in one way or another way, you are, you're putting your foot on the other leg in some respects. And that could be disadvantageous or cause some error in judgment. In this case, it didn't, obviously. I think
Were
it
there
Yeah.
substantive changes?
But,
Or
Well,
just
they-
the formatting?
no, it's just that we did, when you work on wording, maybe there's better wording. I'm not saying that changes are not sometimes highly desirable, but it's incorrect to make them without consulting the author. In this
No, I was
case, the
just
committee.
inquiring as to whether there were substantive changes to it. I mean, I agree with you 100%, but I just didn't, were there actual substantive changes that were made? By substantive mean changing the meaning, not
Oh,
using it
I
differently.
didn't notice anything
Oh,
like
no,
that.
they just kinda,
Yeah, it's,
It's-
this is more, I wouldn't even want to actually, I haven't thought about this, so I wouldn't want to go on record as saying what I think the changes are. But this, except, as I recall, it was a message from the committee to the community, and it was written that way. This is a message about ADUs, it's very abstract, comparatively speaking. So if we want our newsletter to be us speaking to the community, this is what we've learned, this is what we think, this is whatever, it's just a different tone. And I
No,
just
no,
say
you're
they
right.
shouldn't change anything without running it back.
I
they
agree.
did, to be fair, Allison did send it to me, but it was, I think it was the same day of the concert. And so the plan was for me to sit at the table and use this flyer at the concert. So I looked at it, and even though it wasn't the essence of what we were trying to get out in some of the messaging, which is really, just to kind of stress the fact that we have a lack of affordable housing and we need to do something about it. It was more of that message, not, this orientation is like, hey, did you know about ADUs? It was more, it did change the tone of what we're trying to do, but I think it was just a timing in the fact I was trying to get this out on a certain day. And I did the executive decision to say, okay, that looks good. Because when I first looked at it, I'm like, it does actually, it's kind of compact, and she did a really good job doing this. But I think moving forward, Mary, you're right, we have to just make sure the what we're trying to get across isn't distorted in any way, or not distorted, but
Yeah, it's a good word.
distorted. I'm trying to be balanced here. Okay, so we did want to talk about, did I put that on the agenda? Okay. I also wanted to bring up, I don't know if folks saw the Connecticut Mirror, but there was and this is like, close to my heart. you know, homelessness is up again for a third year in a row, another 13%.
Sorry, couldn't hear you.
Homelessness.
Homelessness, thank you.
Yeah. And, you know, and that's directly linked to a lack of affordable housing, or lack of housing in general. So, it's just, again, it just, you know, calls for the need for, you know, Connecticut, the region, you know, us as a town to ensure that we're creating more housing. Because as we saw from the 211 statistics, there's people that are calling 211 from Woodbridge that are in need of shelter. So, hopefully that will spark some sense of urgency. Any questions, comments on that? So that is, I think that's it I have from that report. And just a quick update on the Warner update, that was in the minutes, and that's the Lucy Street elderly housing development. Not much of an update, because the town is still trying to work with the owner of the Warner to secure another operator, given the expressed concerns with the current candidate, who had a history, just his history of his business model of flipping houses and evicting people. And, but more importantly, he had no experience with operating affordable housing developments or serving the elderly population. So the town is hoping to be able to secure an operator who has the experience of you know, operating elderly housing, to be able to bring the seniors in, and most importantly, to secure resources to be able to recapitalize that whole development, because it needs more than just painting the fence and fixing the washing machines.
Who is in charge of that property today?
That's a good question.
Who's in charge of the property?
Yes. Who owns the property, the buildings today?
The building.
John Campone.
He didn't sell it to the other person?
No.
Okay.
He indicated a time that he needs to get out by.
He just wants to get out. He's had this, I guess this is something his father built. And you probably know the Flats history much more than me, but his father originally built it. And he's been, you know, operating it. And, he wants to retire. He just doesn't want to be in the business of operating this property anymore. He found somebody who, you know, upon further scrutiny as to who this person was, would not be somebody we'd want to have operate affordable housing for seniors. It would be, you know, it probably would not be a good thing for the long-term viability of the affordable housing and of the, you know, the building itself. You want somebody who's able to come in and invest, you know, funding in there to rehab that whole place.
Does the town have any influence or control over who the purchaser is?
They have a lot of influence because they own the property.
Yes.
Yes.
But they do have, is it in the deed that the town has some control or influence over who purchases the property?
They would have to give approval to assume the lease.
Okay. So the Board of Selectmen have to approve
The Board of
who is going to
Selectmen,
assume
right,
it.
this comes down to the Board of Selectmen. This was on the agenda. He didn't, in fact, you know, if you follow the meetings, I think it might have been the April meeting, the potential candidate did come here and, you know, and there was like, for approval for assumption of the lease, and there was, you know, contingency that they wanted to check it out with Chaffa first, because you'd have to get the Chaffa mortgage. He would be able to have to assume the Chaffa mortgage, and so that that didn't work, so that didn't work out because things started to come up about who the potential operator could, what his business model was, which, and it's out there. If you looked at his LinkedIn page, his business model is tenant replacement. So it's just not, I don't think it's the best model for elderly population on a fixed income. So that is my Warner update. Is there any, and again, this is one of our strategies. We want to make sure we preserve what little affordable housing we have. We want to make sure that we preserve that.
So those properties are deed restricted at a certain rent level,
Only 6 of them actually are deed restricted.
and there's 30 units there?
There's 30 units, so there's only 6 that are deed restricted, and the other ones are market rate. But I guess to the current operators, I don't want to say credit, he kept the rents low. So that it's probably one of the true examples of naturally occurring affordable housing. He did not, even though he could have charged market rents, he probably couldn't get market rents, but he didn't increase the rents, and I think that might have been the issue with why he's in trouble right now.
So it's my understanding that that counts as affordable housing, but is it only 6 units count as affordable housing, or is it all 30?
No, actually, it all counts because it's CHAFA funded.
Okay.
So it's CHAFA. It seems like when you get CHAFA money in there, it does count towards your affordable housing, which is it's kind of interesting. Like if you got a CHAFA mortgage, and now CHAFA mortgages go up to $510,000, that would count as affordable because of the CHAFA mortgage.
Yep.
So it has to do with the CHAFA financing.
Okay.
Any more questions on that item? Okay, moving right along. Updating the Housing Committee's website. We talked about taking that job over. I think Allison actually did update it, and this is where I probably should have asked Nick to put this up on the screen, but I don't know if folks have a phone to look at the website, or has anybody checked out our website as of late? Well, I know. Good thing Chris did, or else people
I would have been
been
here
showing.
next week if I didn't ask a question.
Yeah, Allison actually cleaned some things up, and she inadvertently changed the date of the meeting.
Yeah.
So Chris is like, "Are you sure you're meeting the first?" No.
So what am I looking for here?
You're gonna.
So Allison is the person who updates the website right now?
She said she was gonna clean it up. So I don't know who actually. I thought Tony was the one that does it, but.
Tony Belinsky.
Belinsky.
Okay.
Is it Tony Belinsky or Karen?
Okay.
I guess I should say.
Because you can't say Tony, because it's not Tony Genovese.
Yeah, this-
He's got
Oh,
other things on his
no,
plate.
no.
Tony Belinsky
No.
But
or
what-
Karen Crosby.
Oh, what was the question about it?
Who is cleaning the website up?
Oh, it's not cleaned up.
They look the same.
It's still got everything in the whole wide world museum in it. All the housing survey results and the responses and all that stuff from 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. I thought she was doing something. Okay. I think she was, all right, she was
I
planning.
found it
later.
helpful. I went through every one of those things, and I found it very helpful to get a sense of what this committee's been doing for the last
Yeah,
few
that's a
years.
good
So
top.
if someone's
Yeah.
interested, there's a lot of valuable information on it.
Gap on mine.
Yeah, I don't think you need all the survey results. I mean.
I found the survey results very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I
well,
read through the 258 comments. It was really
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
We
There's
all
a lot-
did. We all did.
There's a
but-
lot of information there, so
Yeah, well,
I think,
So you think we should, I mean, this is good, this is the discussion that I'd like to have, how to make that more appealing. I know
More
Mary,
accessible.
we all have said that this website needs to be, updated, but, I don't know if there's anybody that wants to take the task of looking at the website and figuring out, or should we like dedicate some time
Oh, I nominated Chris.
Oh, that's,
You know, I appreciate that. Like, I've got nothing else going on. I'm just doing my own website and helping with another website. And I'm not a website person, but
well, it sounds
I'm
like
gonna,
you
I mean,
got-
I think everybody should take a look at it at the next meeting, come
Yes.
back and say, I think we should do this, I think we should move that, I think we need this, I don't think we need that.
Part of it's just basic website design, you know, it's not designed, it's just this
Yeah.
long list of
Yes.
stuff.
But does anybody, is there any other communities that has a jazzed up website, or is it all?
Well, it's just a question of I mean, for example, as Chris said, that all of that information is very useful. We've all gone through it in the past. The question is, where are we right now, and what do we want to have here? Nobody else besides you, Chris, is gonna, you know, go through all of that stuff.
Well, I think people
Right.
will as time goes on.
Well, I think it'd be more
Yeah.
efficient for them, for
Yeah.
us, a good service on our part, perhaps to summarize that, so that it was the part that's really useful to people
Or
going
organize it in a way,
forward
yeah.
is more accessible, instead of having to read through, how many survey question answers did we? It's 350 or something.
Besides being disorganized, it's also a little stale. I mean, according of the October 25th, 21 meeting, changed the zoning schedule effective the 21st. Well, that's probably the last one, but probably should have some more recent stuff, including probably this.
Yeah, well, they
Well,
are
yeah.
gonna put,
Yeah.
they're gonna put that on there, so,
Do-
I just, it'd be nice if they could just kinda see it, you know, see the actual flyer.
Newsletters. Affordable housing plan right at the top instead of halfway down
Yeah.
this list.
I don't think they need to see other towns' affordable housing plans anymore.
Correct.
I mean, that was during,
Stated, yeah.
that was during when we were doing the plan and we were trying to get like ideas of what the plan, that needs to go.
I mean, you can put drop-down menus in there to store different information. People
Yeah.
can choose to go to them or not, but,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the
You can leave it
capacity
on.
or what the limitations are of the town staff to.
who's the person who actually edits the website?
Yeah.
Do we know who that is?
I thought it was,
Well, we can find out easily enough.
I thought it was Tony Belinsky. But again, or I could be wrong.
And the committee members are all alphabetized, with the exception of poor Chris.
Oh, I
He
can-
may be the
it's okay.
latest, but he shouldn't be
It's all right.
last. He's a D.
Doesn't matter, doesn't matter.
I don't know, I get lost in the town's website. The company doesn't have a specific web page, right?
Yeah, they
Or
do.
link.
It just has this
I
thing,
just-
you know, it's housing
Housing,
committee,
yeah, that's,
thing,
I've seen-
and
oh,
then
that's
you've
all we
got
have, it. Okay.
all
That's
that
all
stuff.
the links.
Yeah, you have to
So,
like.
you have to know what the possibilities
Search.
are for reorganizing it before you can make some decent suggestions. I mean, if this is the only way they can do it, then there's no point in making suggestions about improving it. I mean, the suggestions would look different than
I'll volunteer
this.
to find out who actually edits the website.
Well,
So,
Allison did say she was gonna clean it up.
is it Allison, is it Tony, or is
I
it
don't-
Karen?
I don't know.
And that's the challenge, so
Yeah.
if you want, I'll volunteer to find out who's the person
Okay, got that
that we as a committee will send information to put on the website.
But we might wanna talk about, like, what we want to have on the website, or what is the most important
Correct.
thing to be on the website. I
Yeah.
would think we might wanna have this flyer first. There's also another, tool that came out from the partnership from Strong Communities and List, I don't know if you saw that. They have a affordable housing development resource tool that is like a map of every resource, state and federal government for creating affordable housing. So it's a way of promoting access to these resources, because there's so many different resources, and you can actually just kind of Google, do you want a loan, do you want a grant, do you want, tax credits, and you could like Google that, based on what type of development, and it like, sorts out, it filters out what kind of, funding resources you could have for helping you create affordable housing. So I think that might be a good thing to be on the website. The other thing I thought would be good, when we had talked about the Chaffa mortgages, we did a little research, because if a homeowner gets a Chaffa mortgage, that counts towards on the affordable housing, account. And, though it looks like they closed out they ran out of funding, so I guess it doesn't matter at this point to put that up there.
Yeah.
But if we had those types of programs that could be available to folks, that would be good as well.
Yeah, I guess we have to be careful, because, this website, I don't know what platform this is built on, but, I mean, the folks in town are web designers or developers, so I'm not sure how much more you could,
Can do.
because I see these are links, which are like, you know,
Yeah, but I think
look
that
like
there's
they
some,
could create
like,
links to,
yeah.
The links work, by the way, I
Yeah.
compliment them. They actually take you to the agendas and the minutes,
Yeah,
and they're up to date. They have this meeting's
yeah, no, they
agenda
did,
there.
they do a good job with having them up to
Yep,
date.
they did that, what's nice.
Yeah, yeah, so that's all good. But yeah, I mean, you know, Chris, if you could like, find out who is the,
Yep, there should be a point person.
Keeper of
Yep.
the
Yeah.
website, and if we wanted to update it, who is the point person?
How much, yeah, if you can ask what the level of changes that we can implement might be, that would be a step in the right
Okay.
direction.
Yeah,
But what we need to have on the website is not just the tools that are important for us and important for understanding what we can do going forward, but also what the public wants to know about the housing committee. And hopefully this coming year, we'll have more opportunities to actually interface
Yeah.
with them and find out what information, but anybody who has any ideas like that should go into the mix here.
right,
for a
that
tab.
was what was on the newsletter that got cut out, because
That
we
was-
wanted to start like a little, not a blog, but a little, like, if, you know, ask the housing committee, do you have a burning question? And then be able to use whatever question and use that as the next newsletter. So that was a way of corresponding with the public, because I think it's really important if there's, you know, issues that people have with, or just don't understand about, you know, housing, affordable housing, we would be able to at least demystify whatever issue there is.
Yeah, I remember I was mentioning after the Board of Selectmen meeting, one of the members of the public asking me the not standard, but very common question, you know, why can't we make the housing in Woodbridge, we have a lot of quote-unquote naturally occurring housing in Woodbridge according to some people's understanding, why can't we make that into affordable housing? And the answer is pretty complicated. So if you try to stand there and explain it, everybody just sort of gets bogged down. So a newsletter would be a good way to do that, because you can do it graphically much more clearly.
Yeah, so, maybe I will follow up with, Allison in terms of the newsletter. Maybe she could just, maybe after this, she could say, you know, if you have a question. I mean, because she has here, for questions about ADUs or two-unit dwellings, ask Chris Sullivan, and it's just like, you know,
Well,
which is fine for that, but I
yeah,
would,
this layout is, you know, is conducive to that. Because, I mean, we'd have to change it a little bit, the box could be smaller, and then you could have different subjects or invitations in different boxes with a main, subject at the top or on the side. This'll work, this'll work, if we like it.
right. But maybe the next one will be, you know, do you have a question for the housing committee?
Yeah, like this, did you know, down here.
Did you know? Okay.
I mean, that's
It will
really
work.
more about ADUs, it's ADUs and two.
Well, it's exclusively about ADUs, and that's her point, that if it's a newsletter, it's not, it's gonna have more than one
That's
subject,
correct.
and it has the possibility,
Yeah.
should have more than one subject.
But anyway, at least we got something out there, so
Yeah, that's good,
that's good.
and it looks very good. Don't know how I got it.
Okay, so, for our next, for September's meeting, if folks could look at the website, and, Chris, I guess once you get the answer, just
Yeah.
let us know, and that will probably frame to what extent we can update the website. But certainly we wanna update it, and I wanna get those old, affordable housing reports from different towns off. I don't want people to get distracted by that, because that was just as an example to what could be for our affordable housing plan. Now that we've had it for the past 2 years, I don't think we need that.
That's right.
I mean, maybe it could be replaced. Donovan sent out a good email. Was it this week, Donovan? You said something that I liked, that I can't even remember what it was, but I remember I liked it.
Oh, about
That
the
article.
20%.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Maybe we could put some things like that in
I
there.
saw, yeah, every now and then I come across these articles I thought was
Yeah,
was
that was a
interesting.
good article. Maybe we want to put those there.
Well, that's, yeah, I mean, that's
What if it
that's
changes?
gonna come down to, and that's when we're really operationalizing the zoning, because that has to do, because right now we have 20%, requirement for, if you have multifamily housing, there's a 20% requirement. So I think
State-
Branford
state- State limit, right? State requirement, minimum, state minimum.
the state minimum is it 20%?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is 20%.
Yeah, 6 of 30.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
10%.
so you have to have the 20%. So, and we kind of just followed that, but you don't have to.
Doesn't seem like a lot.
Well, actually, if you're doing a private development, if you're not using public subsidies, and you're doing a private development, 20% is actually high, because you have to have enough units to underwrite the cost of the affordable units. So that's why you need to have, and 20% usually doesn't pencil out. It's usually more like 12%, 15%. So, but that's why you need
If they're
that.
expensive.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you need the public subsidies in order not to have to, you'd have to build a lot more units in order to cover those costs. Which is, I don't know if that's the Woodbridge way. Anyway, all right, so we're done with updating the Housing Committee's website. And again, my other idea was to, and I'll send this out, I meant to send this out today, the Affordable Housing Development Resources link that the partnership and list came up with. It's a really good link to, search for different resources. Did you see that, Warner?
Yeah, I didn't get too deep into it, but
Yeah, it was pretty thorough and comprehensive. I couldn't believe how many resources there was. I thought I knew them all, but it's pretty good. The next item on the agenda is this discussion of the state's, and this is proposed plan of conservation development. I did send out a link. I don't know if folks had a chance to look at that link. It was like an hour presentation. I tell you the truth, I just started looking at it today when I was trying to do my wash verification, so I haven't dived into it too much, but it's actually, they're doing things differently. That's all I could tell you, the state's planned conservation development. Did anybody have a chance to? Okay, so what did you think of it, Mary?
And Mika was there too. We should have him here to talk about it.
Yeah, Mika was yeah, he was the only one to ask questions, but I thought they did a really good job, because they kind of like changed things around. They have Office of Responsible Growth now that oversees the state's plan of conservation development, and that falls under the Office of Planning, OPM, Policy Management, and so I sent the link out. It's an hour presentation. Rebecca Auger, who's executive director of that office, did the presentation with 2 of her staff people, and they're just trying to, I guess, to keep it short, do a holistic approach, because before, the way their prior POCD was done, and I could attest to this because whenever you're doing state funding, you have to show that you're compliant with the state's plan of conservation and development, and you have to say why you're compliant, and you have to talk about, I think they called it growth strategies, and for your project, you know, what growth strategy is it? And so they said, like, doing it that way is really a siloed approach, and you could be compliant, you could be aligned, your project could be aligned with one growth strategy, but it totally contradicts another one. And so they want to make sure that it's done in conformity with their visions and their policies and their practices. So that's like a really big, high-level summation based on my first-time view of it. But if folks do have a chance to look at the video that I sent out, we could talk about it, you know, some more. They do want comments by the end of this month. They did extend the comment period because they didn't do the presentation to SCROG until like last week or something. And SCROG, I don't know, Chris, if you know what SCROG is, so, okay.
Thing is though, tell everybody else what SCROG is.
We say it a lot.
I know, that, the challenge with acronyms
Yes.
is that people don't know. And I watched one video, and the presenter talked about DERGs. And when he was asked what a DERG was, he couldn't explain it, what a DERG is.
What is it, dirt?
I'll tell you, because I printed it, because I didn't know the exact language. And it's a district reference group, and it's a socioeconomic way to group different towns' educational systems. But this is something that people don't know the definition of that. And so we use acronyms, and a lot of people use acronyms, and I think it's a way to keep the public less informed. I'm the opposite. I want to give everything to the public. They should know everything. So when we talk about SCROG, it's the Southern Connecticut Regional Council of Governments. Yeah.
It's your
Yeah.
COG.
It's like a county.
Yeah, and their role is gonna be, under this plan, their role is gonna be more important, it's gonna be more elevated, because they wanna try to get like more capacity into the planning aspect of it, which I think is great.
I have a question. Yeah, I listened to it one time through, and at the end, she mentioned that this was the last of all of the Council of Regional Governments presentations that they were making, and I thought, oh, that explains a lot to me. It was like they were going, oh, you know, we've said this 16 times before, not 16, how many are there, 9?
Yeah.
We've said this so many times before, and we're just kind of rushing through it, and I'm going, oh, what did you just say? I want the slides, and it was really hard to follow them from that point of
Yeah,
view.
we're not able to print the slides based on that presentation. It would be really helpful to get the
Yeah,
slides.
no, they're supposed to get the
They're
slides.
supposed to
Yeah.
give us
Yeah.
the
We
haven't
slides,
gotten
yeah.
them yet.
I
But
haven't gotten
actually, in the meantime, what I did was go back to the POCD draft that we reviewed in June, and a lot of it's in there.
They
So
have, they
you can
have,
just
their
do that.
plan is updated, so they had updated it in March, it's probably updated again, but they have the updated
But the
plan.
whole structure of what they were trying to do and so forth. Because when I looked at it in June, the document,
Right,
you know, we were really focused on the principle about housing and services. And they were talking about the whole
yeah,
document.
yeah.
And as you said, the changes that they had made, and particularly to increase the integration of organizations and agencies' knowledge of and communication with others about the common principles and the other things and policies that they were promoting. So that, of course, is all very good, and of course, all of us will be going, oh, why government, you know, they have to mandate in 85 pages how you know, fill out a form. But if it works, that's fine.
Yeah,
But as I said, I had not, when I finished the presentation, I thought, I'm gonna have to listen to this again, because I missed a lot of it. But then when I looked at the paperwork, I realized I picked up an awful lot. But I still wanna look at the slides. I still.
yeah, well, as soon as, Stephanie Camp from the South Central Regional Council of Governments, is going to be, sending those out. But the other change, and they're not even sure whether or not these changes are gonna fly, because it still has to be, you know, passed
Yeah.
legislatively, and, is, because they have, because that kind of governs, you know, where different resources go, and the prior plan had it by funding priorities, and this is more of a, vocational analysis, they have like activity centers, and it's really based on what is in, you know, what the area looks like. So that's a big difference, you know.
Yeah, I thought that was, to me, that was the most interesting part of the
Yeah.
presentation, were the maps.
Yes.
And that was one of the more frustrating things, because that was one of the presenters who was really streaming through her read comments, and really hard to follow. And I really want to see those maps, because, and then again, when you go back into the paperwork, you can see one of the changes, you could see reiterated the major change she was talking about, because the previous mapping and conceptualization of the activity zones was done by census tracts.
Right.
And an individual census tract can have different types of activities in them. It can have a concentrated urban area, and then it can have a rural area. I guess I don't know whether that's actually accurate, but that kind of contrast is what she was talking about. And one of the things that interested me vis-a-vis Woodbridge was that they were drawing attention to the fact, this particular fact. So you could be making recommendations. It would be possible for the state to make recommendations based upon, or approvals based upon, the fact that a particular census tract, as mapped out, had a certain character, and it was suitable for development, and so it would be marked suitable for development. But in fact, a significant proportion of that same census tract would be inappropriate for development, but rather highly appropriate for conservation. And so that was something that we've talked about a lot here, that we really need to be sensitive to both of those sides of, and of course all the rest of the sides of things that we want to consider when we're deciding how we want to use our land.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it really takes a balanced approach,
Oh, I
and I really, you know, I don't have any comments yet, because I need to understand it a lot better in order to make an informed comment. But, you know, if folks do have time to look at that and, you know, express, you know, you could, of course, make comments based on being a, you know, resident of Connecticut, or, you know, we can see, we can make a.
Where do we submit the comments to? Who do we submit them to?
It's, let me see, do I have?
Aren't they giving a second presentation to COG next week, or some other time? I can't
No,
remember.
that's the presentation of the regional affordable housing.
Oh, that's
plan.
the presentation.
Yeah, it's a
No,
different
there's
presentation.
some-
It's I could get you the email, and if I don't get it out, just remind me to get it out.
Okay.
I would think it's, the Office of Responsible Growth. I think they had it.
I don't recall seeing it in the presentation,
Was
but
it
I
in the
might have missed it.
presentation?
I don't recall seeing it, but I might have missed it.
Oh, you know what, you could go on the website, that's right, because I was looking at
No,
it.
she
Go
was
on
supposed
Which
the,
website?
it's Office of, it's the Office of Responsible Growth. And they're the ones that's doing this, and they have a whole thing on it, and the email's on there. And if you
Okay.
can't find it, let me know. But I'm pretty sure that the email is there. 'Cause-
It might be very well for us to comment on their intention to clarify the relationship, as you said in your introduction, relationship between the policies and the way that they're implemented by different parts of the government, because we have already observed that being a problem for people to understand and to make their way through. One of the other things that I thought was interesting about their presentation was the focus on the appendices of the housing plan, which is full of information about agencies and exactly who's out there, who's on first, and who's making these decisions, and what they're doing. That's all laid out in the appendices. It's very interesting. Take a look at it.
I don't think I noticed that. Would that be something that would be good for our website to look in?
When it's finished, maybe. No, that's really intergovernmental.
Okay.
Take a look and see what you think, but.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. All right, so is there any more discussion on the state's plan? All right, so I'll just, I'll keep this on the agenda, even though comments are due by the end of August, we might wanna just talk about it a little bit more next month. Because I do wanna be a little more informed on this plan. So the next one is, our next item is the town's update, plan of conservation development, because we are also going through our updated plan of our plan of conservation development for Woodbridge, and I don't really have much to report, only that, the way Chris Sullivan had advised that we would give input into the plan was that we had to bring our input to the town plan and zoning to hear what we have to say about what we wanna see in the plan of conservation and development. And, I did talk to the first selectman, and I'm like, that just doesn't work for us, I think we want to work with the consultant and see how we could best inform, what he would, because I don't wanna spend a lot of time putting together some information that we feel should be going into the plan of conservation development, and it's not the format, or it's not the information, or it's not, what he's looking for to update the plan. So I want a better, I think we talked about this, just a better framework of what would go, of how that could be, advised in terms of updating the housing section. I'm talking about the housing section.
What's the timeline on updating the plan of conservation development?
Well, it has to be adopted by the Board of Selectmen by, I think it's May 15th, 2025. But they have a long, hearing, public participation. So it really actually has to be done way before that, because it has a long vetting process. So,
And it's the responsibility of town plan and zoning to do this, correct?
yes, it's
so-
both.
So that's
Yeah.
probably why they're asking for us to give the information to them, because it's their responsibility. It's not ours.
Yeah,
It's
but
theirs.
they're.
I did it 20 years ago, so 2 times
Yeah,
ago. I remember
I've-
being involved in that.
I've done many, well, I shouldn't say many, because it's every 10 years, and I was
Seems
aging
like
myself.
This would be the 3rd time in 20 years.
Yeah,
been done.
yeah, I've done 3, God, I can't believe I've done 3. Anyway, no, but I think because we are a housing committee and we did the affordable housing plan, and that has to be incorporated, I think we have a little higher standing than becoming in front of like public comment to tell, planning and zoning. So I think the best way of getting feedback into the plan would be to just talk to the consultants, to have him guide us as to what would be useful for them to be able to best update this plan, because there's going to be a lot of, we already went through this before. I don't know if you had a chance to view our meetings that we've had.
I have not viewed the meetings.
Yeah, we've gone through the plan of conservation development in terms of what needs to be updated and not be updated. So I just don't want to be going through an exercise and find out that, yeah, no, I'm not going to use that, I want to make good use of my time, so I would rather just talk to the consultant. So I have a little edge because I'm also on planning and zoning, so I'm hoping I could use that influence to, make our life a little bit more efficient. So that's my update for the town's POCD. Is there any questions on that? So I'm hoping, once I talk to SLR, if that's the name of the consulting firm that's doing the plan, I'll have more of a framework. Yeah, I mean, you
They're
probably
doing the
know.
2030 plan.
Yeah.
Yep,
Are you still working with them?
yep,
Oh, well, maybe you guys can.
yep. No, I'll leave it to you, you're the chair. I'll talk to the
Well,
website.
you're talking to them, you could just okay. The next item, on the agenda, and I just wanna like to start to have this conversation, because we're gonna be evolving as a housing committee. And there's discussion of creating a housing commission to morph us into a housing commission. There's also the opportunity of creating a housing authority, and how, we talked about this, and in fact, this is something Mark Brantz had, recommended that we do. I don't remember Mark Brantz, he's the one that did the presentation. He did the training, for the Planning and Zoning Commission that got opened up to the Housing Committee and got opened up to the public at large, on affordable housing, fair housing, and, some of us, I mean, it was, I think Donovan, Mary, Elaine, we were talking to Mark Brantz, like, what do we do? We were just trying to get some intel. And he said, well, why don't you, you might want to look into creating a housing authority, because every town could create a housing authority. You just have to have a finding of safe, lack of safe and sanitary housing, which I think we could probably find that. But it's, there's pros and cons, of having a housing authority. You could also agree to have an adjoining housing authority, act as a housing authority. But I'm not sure, I'm not sure if that would work for Woodbridge.
Do you have any information on this that you can send to us to read, that we can read over?
Yeah, I did, I've had sent some stuff out, but I could send it again.
Thank
Yeah.
I'm not following this entirely. Where did this conversation with Mark? been great?
Mark Brantz, did you go to the training, we had it was a training that was for planning and zoning, it was at the JCC. And it was the mandatory training for land use officials. And he talked about fair housing, policies, affordable housing, and he did a whole presentation.
Did we tape that? Was
yes.
that taped?
Yep.
Is it on the website down in there somewhere?
It is on the website, but sometimes I just can't find these things. I don't know.
It was a very good
So
presentation.
the conversation.
No offense, Nick, but I can't find it.
This is a question, not a comment, but, so the conversation is whether we have we call it either committee, commission, or authority, not that
Well-
we have more than one.
No, the commission would be an ordinance. You'd have to, we don't just
Right.
create, say, okay, we're a commission now. The ordinance committee would have to create ordinance to create a housing commission. We had gone through, we did look at the Guilford's housing committee. 'Cause their housing committee has morphed into a housing commission. So there was regulations. Do you have, I do send out this information. But I could send it to you again.
And the ordinance would also have to rule on if we were setting it up as a housing authority, right?
No, that's two different
Yeah,
things.
that's two
And you can have two. I mean, like Guilford, for example, now has a housing commission, but they've always had a housing authority.
And what would the differences be?
Well, the housing authority acts, I mean, the board of selectmen, I know it's board of selectmen or first selectmen, they appoint, probably board of selectmen, they would appoint the commissioners, but once you appoint the commissioners, they act on their own. It's their own governance.
Right, so that would go by ordinance first.
No, that's not, that's
You said
state,
commissioners.
that's state.
Oh, gotcha.
The housing authority is state law.
Okay,
Any town
thank you.
could become, could have a housing
Yep.
authority. They just have to have a finding. And the board of selectmen would have to prove having a housing authority. And I could send, all that legislative stuff out. And I don't wanna talk anymore, cause sometimes sometimes I might trip up and not get things totally, something.
That's okay, I was just a little confused.
Yeah, but the housing authority is under state law, the housing commission would be set up by the ordinance committee. And we did have an example of an ordinance, for a housing commission that was from the town of Guilford that I handed out. So we could.
And an ordinance gets approved then by the Board of Selectmen, the question again, not a
For the housing, to
commission.
have a housing commission, that would have to be approved by, that would have to be, you know, you have to like create the ordinance, because there's different ways of creating commissions. We do have a good model with the Guilford example, the Guilford, Housing Commission, but, you know, they might wanna do things differently.
So the question in my mind is, to clarify, what the advantages and disadvantages of transforming the committee into either one of these two things would be. I don't know what.
Well, the advantages for a housing authority is that you have the power to actually create housing. Right now, we just provide, you know, we're just advisory to the Board of Selectmen. And we just, you know, we do our stuff, we do our findings, and then we report to them in terms of what they should do, but we don't have any power to do anything. Where if we were a housing authority, then we could, you know, we could bond, we could, you know, could get resources, we could create, we could develop housing, we could, I mean, there's, you know, I think we even might have eminent domain powers. I mean, you get a lot of powers. Right.
And the difference between, in the middle, would be the commission. Because the committee is what we are, and we basically funnel all of our information through the Board of Selectmen.
Right, right,
The Housing Authority has vast powers to build, create housing.
right.
What would the Housing Commission do?
It would just be doing the same thing as the committee would be doing, because we've been like essentially been working as a commission, because we've been having to follow everything. The only thing would be, it would be based on ordinance. You would have, you know, equal representation. You would have like different terms. You would have to have staggered terms. So it'd be more formalized.
This is more of a shorter term,
This is an ad hoc
committee,
committee,
yeah.
yeah,
and then that would be a formalized
Right.
committee that would be ongoing.
right.
Okay, and then the Housing Authority is
It's a different
dramatically,
animal.
totally different.
It's a different animal.
Yeah.
It's a state entity.
Yeah.
The commission would be appointed
And you
by
got both,
the Board of Selectmen then, right?
yes.
We were appointed,
You're
By
appointed
Beth
by the
Heller.
Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
we were by the whole board, or was it just the first select?
No, I
We
think,
were nominated.
I don't remember, it's been so
yeah, I
long.
think the way it was that they had names and they.
I got a letter from Beth, but I didn't know. if
Yeah, I
that
think
went
they
to the board.
probably approved it, at the Board of Selectmen meeting.
Okay.
I imagine, because even at that point was equal representation, because we had a balance of, you know, Republicans and Democrats, independents, you know, it wasn't, you know, partisan. So to me, it did kind of function like a commission in that respect when it was first formed.
The only difference is we don't have staggered terms, and this would have do we have a lifespan? Did they appoint this for a year, 2 years? I don't even know.
No, we actually do have a lifespan, and technically, our term, we technically have.
Looking at the chart, get it right in front of me.
We have a 2-year term, so technically we're off next month, but the Board of Selectmen, I think is gonna extend this to the end of the month, end of the year, until we figure out who we are.
So would the town have to accede to creating a housing authority, or is that mandated by the state under the circumstances?
So they'd have to agree to it. The Board of Selectmen would have to agree to it, yeah,
Why would they do
because they wanna do housing. I mean, why would Guilford does it, right?
Who would fund it?
You could get, they would have access to funding, they would get federal funds, you know, they have a lot of the housing authorities really, like Guilford is for their senior housing, so they have, you know, affordable senior housing. And that's done, you know, through different funding streams, be it the state, be it the federal. Not every housing authority is actually funded through HUD, but most are. But there's some housing authorities, you know, smaller ones that are funded through the state.
Would the advantage be that would bring staff to oversee rental, affordable housing? You know, we've noted often that part of the problem is that we don't have anybody who can
Yeah.
advise.
It would provide capacity, but again, it's another bureaucratic creation.
Yeah.
So you have to weigh that. You know, ideally, you know, it would be good to have, and you have regional housing authorities. Ideally, it would be nice if we just create a Amity Housing Authority, right? Because we have needs in, you know, Orange and Bethany as well, but, you know, I mean, these are just certain, you know, ideas that could be discussed, but, you know, I think at this point, we probably will be morphing into a housing commission, and again, you could have both. There's plenty of towns that have both a housing commission or a housing committee and a housing authority. Yeah.
Is any of this on the Board of Selectmen's radar right now?
Is
Is any
between
of
the
this
housing-
either
The
housing
housing-
commission, the authority, is this
Definitely
something
the
they're
housing.
thinking about?
The housing commission is something that's definitely
discuss,
on their radar, is something that they wanna do. But we have also discussed doing the housing authority. So I think we need to just, you know, discuss and just, you know, have, you know, full transparency and just talk about it, so people know what the pros and cons are of doing a housing authority.
Is there a source so that we can inform ourselves better about housing authorities in general and what's involved in how?
Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
legislative bulletin that I sent out,
Did you?
information on.
Can you send that out, please?
I could send it
Thank
out,
you.
yeah. It's pretty helpful because it breaks it down, and all you have to do, it tells you exactly what you have to do, so I will send that tonight. So any other questions, discussions? I'll send out, you know, I'll resend the ordinance from Guilford, the housing, commission, because I think that's a good model. I like the model because it talks about, you know, the charges. They wanted the housing commission to actually work with all the other commissions, because there's just a lot of, you know, intersection between housing and different committees, and they promoted that. In fact, they wanted the housing commission to do that. Even the Board of Ed, I mean, so there's a lot of interconnections with that. And I think they're doing some good things, Guilford. Guilford is a good model. Now, you have a friend, right? Planner or something?
Yeah, he's retired now,
Right,
but he was a
right.
town planner for decades and decades.
Yeah, now he could probably talk about how they decided to bring in the housing authority. Do you think he
Yeah.
might have been there?
And the housing authority's been there for a very long time,
Right,
too.
right. But he could probably talk to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is he somebody you could like talk to and see whether or not he could just talk to us
Sure.
next meeting or something? 'Cause-
Come here?
yeah,
Yeah, I'll see what he was.
yeah, 'cause it's always good to just, yeah, or Zoom. Well, yeah, we could probably Zoom. Could we Zoom him in, Nick? If we had somebody like a guest, could we have somebody kind of Zoom in and?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, unless he wants to visit you or something.
What?
Unless he wants to visit you and,
Oh.
Have some of Lou's excellent barbecue.
oh, yeah. Look at that.
I'm good at volunteering.
All right, so we'll figure it out whether or not we Zoom in, and whether or not we have him down here, if he doesn't mind taking a little hike,
Yeah, okay.
field trip down to Woodbridge. All right, that's cool.
His name's George Krall,
George Crawl.
K-R-A-L.
All into a Z.
Oh, that I don't know. Yeah.
But George sounds familiar.
Huh. Could be. Yeah.
Okay. All right, I think that would be good. I think the more we know and understand, you know, the pros and cons and what would make sense for Woodbridge, or other options, or, you know, it would be really cool if we could do a regional housing authority.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that would, you know, that would be useful. But we could at least start the conversation.
Let's set a good example.
Yeah, yeah. So the last item on our agenda is furthering community conversations. I know Elaine, you know, she started, having some conversations, kind of like, you know, one step off from housing. It's part of like it's called the All In. I don't know if you remember Ben Fink talking about this, but it kind of, the All In group kind of expands beyond housing. It just talks about different social needs, you know, be it housing, be it hunger, be it whatever else they talked about. And she had they had a couple conversations around that, and it seems like, and housing does come up, because housing is always the foundation of issues, you know, be it hunger or,
Yep.
you know, whatever.
Yeah, I had attended one of those meetings. The second one I couldn't because I had a conflict.
Okay,
And yeah, housing does come up.
so can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely.
I
For the
forgot
one
you
meeting
did.
I went to, there was
Yeah.
a more recent one.
Yeah,
But the one meeting I went to, part of the reason why housing came up a lot was because there was confusion among the people that were being invited. They saw a couple housing committee members on the list, and they thought this was the housing committee, and we kept explaining, no, this is All In, and it was a little different, but Ben was there, and there were other people, but people did talk about housing, and there was a lot of concern. People did want housing and did want something to occur, and that was coming up more in the conversation than some of the other issues that they deal with, mental health,
okay,
playground or parks. I guess we call parks and recs, not playgrounds anymore, and things of that nature, which are also important. I mean, you know, and we had the woman there that was from the Bethel Center.
yeah, Jennifer.
Yeah, and she was terrific.
Yes,
She came and she had all the numbers available on her computer,
Yeah.
and we'd ask how many complaints. And there's a lot of issues come up in Woodbridge, which surprised me greatly. I didn't realize it was an issue there. And she indicated that not that anybody in Woodbridge is going, I shouldn't say not that anybody, but it's not a big amount of people in Woodbridge who are going to be homeless. But the trouble is, if housing becomes an issue, they look for housing one step below what they are now, and then trickles down in a negative sense, and then somebody winds up homeless at the end of the day. And so that was an important topic. And yes, people were very involved in the conversations. They were live. The one meeting I went to was very lively.
Yeah, good.
Can I just make sure that Chris knows who Ben Fink is, because he should.
I was at a meeting with him.
You were, okay.
Yeah, you had he was at the early meeting at the library.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think that's essential. And even, Anna, we had a meeting too at the diner. Not with Ben Fink, it was with me, Elaine.
Just you and Elaine.
Yeah, and Buddy DeGenero. But it's like just continuing these conversations, you know, and it takes a lot of work. But you know, it's kind of like, you know, a multifaceted approach that we have to, you know, just have to talk to people and understand, you know, what their concerns are, and you know, any suggestions on how to keep that going and how to expand that. It's just you know, it takes time and energy, and it is work. So I don't know if we have any thoughts how we could or just continue on what we're doing, or? I mean, I thought perhaps, another thought we had, was that public, Connecticut Public TV, program, about housing, that, featured different towns, and Woodbridge was here a little bit. To show that, to maybe have a community conversation around that. It's only an hour clip documentary, and show it, and have a panel, maybe have Jen, from Bethel come, have some other folks come, and then just have a community conversation about what did you just hear, what do you think? So I thought that might be an idea. I also suggested that to Elaine, and actually they were doing that, I think, in Milford, showing the film. So, might wanna see how that turned out. But what do people think about that?
It's a good piece. I mean, we get a discussion going, I think.
Yeah. Has everybody had a chance to see that piece? Have you seen that, Connecticut? No, I'll
Is
send
this
that.
the video where they went and visited like 3 different developments?
No,
No.
no.
This is
Different
CPTV.
This is Connecticut Public TV.
Okay, just haven't seen it.
Yeah, I will
Yeah, I
send it
saw
out
it.
to,
I watched it,
yeah.
I forget what it's called. What's it
I
called?
do too.
What's it called?
I don't remember. You sent me the link, I looked at it.
Yeah, no, it is. Did you see that, Ed?
I started watching, but I didn't get a chance.
Yeah. It's good. It really is. I thought they did a good job.
It's a reminder for myself to watch it.
All right, so let me send that out as well.
Seems to me I saw some circumstance in which they, I don't know who it was, whether it was a documentarian or what, it actually discussed it. I wonder if we could get somebody like that to do it.
Oh,
Making
really?
of it, yeah. I don't remember where I saw that.
Yeah, well, we could put together a really cool panel. I'll see, when Elaine gets back from wherever she is. I'll see if we could, put together something, because maybe we could put it together under, I mean, if All In is looking to do that, we could just.
Fighting for home.
Fighting for home, yeah.
Just Google CPTV housing and it comes right up. You can see it online.
What is it called again?
Fighting for home. How housing policy keeps Connecticut ... I can't remember the rest of it.
Trying to remember, were people from the Open Communities Alliance
Mhm.
involved in that though? So we have to
Yeah,
be
they were-
careful. We have to be careful if we have them speak since we have a litigation.
Yeah, but they didn't talk about,
No, they didn't.
they did not mention anything
No,
about.
not
Or
about us.
desegregate Connecticut, wasn't it? Was
What's that?
I thought it was more, they quoted desegregate Connecticut.
Yeah, they did a lot of desegregate
Quoted it.
Connecticut.
They checked all the boxes.
Was
Yeah.
Erin Boggs and I
Yeah,
saw it so
Erin
many weeks
Boggs.
ago, I can't remember who was in it.
Is it Anika?
I mean, you'd have to, yeah.
Yeah. But they didn't say anything about.
No,
the-
it was okay.
No,
It was
no, no,
fine.
no,
Yeah.
it was just,
That's the one on the Spirit Channel, right? Like, I think I recorded that to watch. There's one that Mika sent out, the Spirit,
Yeah, Mika sent that out,
yeah,
right?
I think I recorded that, but I.
Yes, that's correct. It was from him, not you, yes.
Right, no, yeah, Mika ended up,
Somebody else sent it out and then Mika commented on it.
yeah.
but he said he wasn't gonna do it again.
Yes, that's correct also.
We could put that on our website.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to put that on the website. Okay. Our next meeting, is actually, we do have the, I meant to put this in my comments, but we have another special meeting coming up, the joint meeting of housing and planning and zoning, similar to what we had last time, and so that's September 3rd. And it's gonna be the same kind of setup, it'll probably start around 7 o'clock or so, because we have public hearing. And this will be a presentation by the Department of Housing. We have Mike Santoro and Ben Lovejoy from the Department of Housing, and they're gonna talk about the incentive housing zoning. And how,
Tuesday.
that would be a
It's a
Tuesday
Tuesday.
night. It's after, we usually meet on Mondays because of
It's
Labor
Labor
Day,
Day.
it's Tuesday.
So this, you say it'll be a,
Birthday? Oh, I'll bring it,
It's Labor Day for my mom, too.
I'll bring a cupcake.
you said this would be a joint meeting, or we gotta be relegated? We won't be allowed to be out
I
on
will
the
make
table
sure
again?
that you are special. No, I'll make sure that they recognize the fact that it is a joint meeting.
Yep, good.
There are a lot of you guys that way.
There's nobody
There's
puts
enough
baby in
room.
the corner.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I don't think there was enough room.
Mi chiamo
So-
afterthought.
Yeah,
So that reminds me about minutes for the last special meeting.
yeah.
Do we need them? I mean, do we need to record who was there from our
Yeah,
committee
we
or anything?
should,
Technically,
yeah.
That's interesting.
We voted, the only thing we voted on was to adjourn, we never even did anything.
No, I
else.
opened the
Say
meeting.
anything.
I did open the
It's
meeting.
just
I
like-
asked, well, they
Who
just,
did the minutes for that? I mean, we could just do minutes jointly.
You could do
too,
Well,
joint.
it's online.
let me ask, Chris, maybe she could just throw our names on
Just
there.
throw our names on there,
Yeah, I'll ask Chris.
because we had to move.
Yeah, no. All right, I'll ask Chris about the minutes. Yeah, that's fine. She might have already done that, though. Let me find out. I
I
don't,
need a bigger room.
yeah, no, that was, because other people
A good crowd.
showed up, yeah.
Standing room only.
Yeah, well, I think, I think the way Chris had posted it, she posted it, that it was a discussion on housing and in relation to the plan of conservation and development, which it really was, I mean, it was kinda indirectly related, but it wasn't really, we're gonna talk about housing and how this gets into your P O C D, and I think some of the folks thought that that's what it was. So I think that's why we had a crowd. I think, I mean, that's, how my brain works. Okay, so I just want to remind folks of that, and then the next day we have our meeting, so I hope you don't mind back-to-back meetings, but it's September, and people wake up in September and gotta make up for the summer, right? So there's a lot to do, and we probably will get busy, once we get into the plan, the plan of conservation development. And by that time, because they had their, community survey, they'll have those results done by then, we'll see how that looks. But, I think, I predict it's gonna be a busy next couple of months, with housing. So, and that is it.
I
Okay.
had one thing that you asked me to mention at the meeting that I
Oh,
was
yeah,
telling
yeah,
you
yeah,
about.
sorry.
I had lunch today with someone, and she was she doesn't know I'm on the housing committee, so it had nothing to do with that at all. And we're chatting, and she mentioned that her father just recently had a stroke, and she's got to find them housing. She's not looking for assisted living or anything like that, or a nursing home, but she's looking at an apartment that he could have in the area, but that she could keep an eye on him. And she went looking at Woodbridge, and she said, "Oh, maybe I'll look at these carriage houses off the highway from Toll Brothers." And she said she looked, and there was nothing cheaper than $750,000.
Yeah, yeah.
And she went and looked elsewhere, and she couldn't. She said, "There's nothing in Woodbridge." And I didn't. Told her,
Yeah.
"Yeah, you're right. There is nothing in Woodbridge." And they found something in Orange eventually, but it's a problem even for.
No, right.
It's not just a problem of people who live here who don't want to move out. It's also people who live here who want their families to move in, either children, parents. It could be any generation.
Yeah, well, maybe give her a flyer. She could build an
Yes.
ADU for her.
Yeah, I tell you, we're both an ADU.
No, I mean, yeah, we have to have more housing options.
Yes, we do.
And we have to, the seniors, you know, I mean, it's, people need the option to downsize someplace that's nice, that's affordable, that's accessible. You know, you just have to have more of that, because all of, you know, certainly all the seniors in my neighborhood just moved out.
Do we have any data on the accessory dwelling units that have been converted since the town changed its zoning regulations? About 3 years or just
Yeah,
under 3 years? Do we have any data on any conversions?
Well, Chris actually she had to change her filing system, because that was part of, also the discovery process of how many, because they asked the same question. So I would think, I think she does have a number, or she's going to
Okay.
get the number, but
Okay.
she doesn't, I guess her permits, she doesn't file her permits by types, like everything is just like a one permit file, so she'd have to actually like,
Sort through it?
yeah, sort through it, but now it's, yeah, I guess she came up with a way of
Yeah,
ADUing things, so,
yeah, okay.
yeah, so, she may, you
Okay.
could probably ask her, and,
Yep.
do you know Chris Sullivan? Yeah, okay,
30 years,
okay, yeah, she may have it at this point, yep.
All right. Well, I'm glad for that. Because we wanted to ask that question before and we couldn't get an answer.
I know.
It's a logical question to ask.
I know, I wanted to know also, like, I'd like to know whether or not it's ADU and whether or not it's attached or detached. I like to know, you know,
Yeah.
if there's a way of, 'cause
And where
that's,
they are physically and.
yeah. Because if it's detached,
You
then
want
it's
some
more,
data.
you know, it'd be easier to rent that out to somebody as opposed to attached. I would,
yeah,
I would
but
think.
it's much more expensive if it's detached versus attached, so there's
Yeah.
pros and cons to both.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it would be very good to have that data, to ask those questions and get that information. It'd be nice to, you know, maybe even talk to the people who are doing it and find out how they do about it and what recommendations they have for other people. That would be a good way.
That
to
would be a great
encourage it.
article. That's why I kind of miss the Woodbridgetown News. Like, you know, that would be nice. I know it's still online, but I don't know if
It's not
anybody.
the same.
Yeah.
It isn't.
It's better when you
I-
got it at home.
It isn't.
I can't even.
Oh, yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
even.
Yeah.
Anyway, I won't even go there. But
This
Um,
thing says that can be detached.
Yeah, they can be
Yeah,
detached,
they
yes.
They can now be
Yeah.
attached. They
Yes.
didn't used to be able to.
yeah, yeah.
That's
But
a
I like to know whether or
Which is-
not if they're when they're building it, is it attached or detached? 'Cause,
Oh, I see.
yeah, that's what I'm.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
And how big they are and, well,
Yeah.
you know, just all that stuff. It's important just for statistics. And it might potentially be important to help people be able to visualize doing it for themselves.
Yes.
I know for the 2-unit dwellings, there hasn't been any, which surprises me, because I would think
What was that?
the 2-unit dwellings that you could do anywhere, I would think that would,
But that's new construction, isn't it?
what's that?
Isn't that new construction?
Well, you could
The-
also add on to an existing.
But you're
unit.
limited in the size, correct, of the accessory dwelling unit?
The accessory dwelling
But
units,
not the
yes,
two,
but
not the
two
two-unit
units.
construction, there's no
No.
limit to the size of each unit?
No, no,
Okay,
nope.
interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you can make an existing building just to make it a duplex,
You can make it a duplex.
if you've got enough room on your side.
Yeah, there's an example of something that was converted on my handy dandy poster of different affordable housing.
Not
there-
in Woodbridge though, right?
No, that's in Portland. yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, you could do that. I mean, I don't, you know, some construction, it's not, it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But,
All construction is easier said than done.
but, you know,
Yeah.
it's, I guess it's much easier to redesign it as a 2-unit
Yes.
development than converting it into
Yeah.
a 2-unit development, but
Yeah.
anyway. So,
Interesting.
all right, that's all I have. Any last comments?
So I guess there was only one comment on before this go up? I think Lou had one comment. Is this final? Or?
Well, Lou had a comment on the, oh, yeah.
And now I have an ally in Chris on this,
Yeah.
the
yeah.
acronyms.
I'm gonna see if I could get, that was already I have a lot of printouts, but she could change that. Before it goes on the website, we can have that changed.
Yeah, I like, this is nice and neat, but then I was just comparing it to your email.
Yeah,
but
it's different.
I like reading your, which is, I get more information, but this is generalized.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
nice and neat,
What's attention getting?
yeah, so, maybe I don't like to read too much.
Yeah, I think it's just people like to see things in
Yeah, it's pretty-
shorter sentences.
It's pretty,
They complain terribly
Move to
about
adjourn.
doing
Have
that.
a motion
I
to
do too.
adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
All right.
Wait a second, we have too many
Too
people.
many,
Who gets the
that's what we
distinction?
get
I will
excited
move
for.
to
Jim
adjourn
gets the
tonight's
distinction,
meeting.
okay, and the second is Lou?
Lou.
I'll
As
second.
usual.